I sold my dream house, the one I spent 10 years building, just to save my sister from losing hers. But months later, I discovered she sold that very house behind my back and kept every dollar. Intro. Hi, I'm Emma from Los Angeles. This isn't a story about money. It's a story about trust, blood, and the moment I realized family can cut deeper than any stranger ever could. Stay with me till the end, because what she didn't know was I don't break quietly. I rebuild stronger. It was a bright Friday morning in Los Angeles when my phone rang. I remember the sunlight spilling through my kitchen window, dancing across the marble counter. The home I dreamed of since I was a teenager. My safe space. My pride. Emma, please, you have to help me. My sister Lily's voice cracked through the receiver. I froze. Lily never cried, not even when our parents divorced, not even when her marriage fell apart. Hearing her sob made something inside me ache. What's wrong? I whispered, gripping the phone tighter. Her words came out in broken breaths. They're taking my house. The bank, they're coming tomorrow. I'll lose everything, Emma. Please. The silence between us was thick. I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I had just paid off my mortgage 2 months ago. My house was finally mine. Lily, how much do you need? I asked, my voice trembling. $425,000, she said. It felt like the air was knocked out of me. That wasn't just money, that was everything I had. My savings, my home, my security. But she was my sister. The same girl I used to protect from bullies, the one who shared my bed when she had nightmares. I'll find a way, I said softly. And that was the moment, the one that would later haunt me, when love overruled logic. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat at my dining table, staring at the framed photo of me and Lily from 5 years ago, both of us smiling in front of this very house. I could almost hear her laugh again, carefree and bright, before life got complicated. Selling the house felt like ripping a piece of my soul out, but family was supposed to be worth more than bricks and walls. The next morning, I called my real estate agent, Daniel. Emma, are you sure? He asked, his tone heavy. You just finished paying off this place. You worked a decade for it. I'm sure, I whispered. It's for Lily. He didn't argue. He just sighed, as if he knew I'd regret it later. Within 2 weeks, the paperwork was done. The house sold for $1.2 million, enough to cover Lily's debt and leave me with a little cushion to start over. But as I handed over the keys, I felt a lump rise in my throat. I turned one last time to look at the empty living room. The walls still smelled faintly of vanilla candles. The echo of my laughter still lingered. Goodbye, I whispered, my voice breaking. That evening, I met Lily at a small cafe downtown. Her eyes were red, and she threw her arms around me the moment I walked in. Oh my God, Emma.
You really did it, she cried.
You saved me. I smiled, forcing strength into my tone. That's what sisters are for. She nodded, wiping her tears. You're my angel. We filled out the transfer forms together, and I wired the money straight to her account. She hugged me tight again, but something about the way she held me felt different. It wasn't gratitude. It was relief. And relief, I'd later learn, doesn't last forever. A month passed. I moved into a small apartment in Pasadena. It was nothing like my old home, but it was quiet, peaceful even. I tried not to think about what I'd lost. Every week, Lily called, short, cheerful calls about how she was renovating and finally happy. I smiled through them, proud that she was rebuilding her life. But one evening, I stopped by her house unexpectedly. I had baked her favorite cinnamon bread and wanted to surprise her. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed 2 expensive cars parked out front. The windows glowed warm from inside. Laughter, music, glasses clinking. I knocked on the door, balancing the bread on one hand. A man I didn't recognize opened it. Can I help you? I'm here to see Lily, I said, confused. He frowned. Lily? Sorry, no one by that name lives here. My stomach dropped. What? This house belongs to us now, he said, his tone polite but firm. We bought it 3 weeks ago. The world around me spun. I stepped back, clutching the bread so tightly that the crust crumbled in my hand. My sister's house, the one I sold my home to save, had been sold again. Behind my back, I stood frozen on the porch, unable to process what I'd just heard. The man gave me a sympathetic smile. Maybe you've got the wrong address? No, I whispered. I don't. My eyes lifted to the small potted plant near the steps, the one I gifted Lily last spring. It was still there, wilting slightly. My heart sank. This was her house. Or it had been. I stumbled back to my car, my hands trembling as I pulled out my phone. My fingers hovered over her contact.
I didn't know what to say.
How do you ask your sister why she sold the house you sacrificed everything to save? But before I could overthink it, I hit call. She answered after a few rings. Hey, what's up? Her cheerful tone sliced through me like glass. Lily, I said, trying to stay calm. Where are you? Oh, just out with some friends.
Why?
I took a deep breath. I went by your house today. There was a pause, a long, heavy silence. Then, a nervous laugh. Oh, you did?
Yes.
And the man who opened the door said he bought it. Another silence. Then, Emma, I was going to tell you. My pulse thudded in my ears. You sold a house, Lily? The one I sold mine to save. Her voice softened, pleading. I didn't have a choice, okay? Things got complicated. I needed money for... Money for what? I snapped. I gave up everything for you. My home. My stability. My peace. And you just... I broke off, my voice cracking. Don't make this about you, she shouted suddenly. You're always the hero, aren't you? The perfect sister who swoops in to save everyone. You don't understand how hard it's been for me. Her words hit like a slap. Lily, I whispered, my throat burning. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I was trying to help you. There was another pause. Then she sighed. I'll pay you back, okay? Just give me some time. Pay me back, I repeated, laughing bitterly. You can't pay back trust, Lily. I hung up before she could answer. The world outside blurred as tears filled my eyes. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the darkening sky. That night, I packed away the last of my photo frames. I deleted her number, but not before saving one final voicemail she'd left me weeks earlier. You're my angel, Emma. I'll never forget what you did. Those words replayed in my head until I couldn't tell whether I was angry or heartbroken anymore. But one thing became clear, I wasn't done. Not yet. Because sometimes, when someone burns your home down, the only thing left to do is build higher than they ever imagined. For weeks after that phone call, silence replaced what used to be sisterly laughter. No more good morning texts. No more voice notes about new recipes or Netflix shows. Just silence, heavy, endless, and cold. At first, I thought maybe she'd show up. Maybe she'd knock on my door and say, Emma, I messed up. But she never did. Instead, she blocked me. Her social media disappeared, her number stopped working, and all I had left were memories that suddenly felt like lies. I'd stare at our old photos, 2 girls with sun-kissed smiles and matching necklaces. Mine still hung around my neck. Hers, I realized she probably sold too. One evening, as I sat in my tiny Pasadena apartment, Daniel, my old real estate agent, called. Emma, he said gently, I'm sorry to ask, but was your sister's house sold by someone named Lily Hayes? My breath caught. Yes. Why? He hesitated. Because the buyers contacted me to verify documents. The sale went through under your name too, as co-signer on the original loan. My stomach twisted. Wait, what? You might still be liable for taxes on the sale, Emma. The world tilted. I gripped the edge of my kitchen counter. She used my name? I whispered. I think so, Daniel said softly. I'll help you fix this. But you should talk to a lawyer. After the call, I sank to the floor, clutching my chest. Betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore, it was legal, tangible, brutal. I cried that night, deep, shaking sobs that came from somewhere ancient in my chest. But amid the tears, a strange clarity settled over me. This wasn't the first time I'd been taken for granted. I'd spent my whole life playing the strong sister, the giver, the one who always rescued others. But I was done saving people who enjoyed watching me drown. The next morning, I woke up early. I put on a clean white blouse, tied my hair back, and walked into the city with a folder of documents under my arm. If Lily thought I'd stay quiet, she'd forgotten who taught her how to fight. As I walked out of the lawyer's office that afternoon, the autumn sun touched my face. I wasn't sure what I felt, maybe grief, maybe determination, but it was the first time in weeks that my heartbeat felt steady. I looked up at the Los Angeles skyline, the same one I once admired from my dream home, and whispered to myself, she took my house, but she'll never take my story. And that's when it began. Not revenge at first, but something more powerful. Rebuilding. Because the best revenge, I realized, is living so well that they have to watch from below. 6 months passed. 6 months since the day I realized my sister had sold not just a house, but the last piece of trust one had in her. At first, I woke up every morning in that small Pasadena apartment, the walls bare, the air too still. It was strange living without the hum of someone else's chaos. Strange, but peaceful. Pain has a way of clearing your vision. Once you stop crying, you finally see the truth, who people are, who you were, and who you can become. I started small. I took the severance I'd received from my old marketing job and used it to launch a freelance design business. It was supposed to be temporary, but soon clients started recommending me. Then one project led to another. By month 4, I was designing brand campaigns for local businesses, the kind I once thought were out of reach. Each deposit that hit my account felt like a brick, rebuilding what Lily had torn down. But this time, the foundation was mine alone. One rainy Tuesday, I stopped at a cafe downtown, the same one where I'd once handed my sister the check that changed everything. Only now, I sat there with a laptop, a coffee, and something I hadn't felt in a long time. Pride. My phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. Heard you're doing amazing, Emma. Also, thought you'd want to know, your sister's old house just went back on the market. My heart skipped. Her house. The one I sold my house to save. I clicked the link. The listing photos showed the same place, but different. The new owners had renovated it. White marble floors, glass walls, modern furniture. Beautiful. Yet all I could see was the echo of the woman I used to be, standing in that kitchen with hope in her eyes. For a moment, I almost closed it, but then something inside me said, no. Look. So I did. And I smiled. That house no longer hurt to see. It didn't define me anymore. It was just a building, 4 walls where a lesson was learned. A few days later, I walked into a networking event for women entrepreneurs in Los Angeles. The theme, rebuilding after loss. I hesitated near the door, nervous, until a woman smiled at me and said, "You belong here." For the first time in years, I believed her. I told my story that night, about the house, the betrayal, the heartbreak, but more importantly, about how I found myself again. When I finished, people clapped. Not because they pitied me, but because they saw themselves in my journey. Afterward, a woman approached me with tears in her eyes. "I needed that," she whispered. "Thank you for saying what I couldn't." I hugged her, and I realized something beautiful. My pain wasn't wasted. It was recycled into purpose. Weeks later, as I left another client meeting, I heard a familiar voice call my name. "Emma?" I turned. It was Lily. Her hair was shorter, her face thinner, her clothes a little too polished, but her eyes, they still carried the same restlessness. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The city noise faded around us. "Wow," she said softly. "You look different." I smiled. "I am." For a heartbeat, we simply stared at each other, the streetlights flickering between us like tiny witnesses. Lily looked nervous, clutching a sleek designer purse against her ribs. She had always loved beautiful things. She just never asked where they came from. "Can we talk?" she said finally. I nodded once. 5 minutes. We walked to a small bench outside the cafe. I could still smell the rain on the pavement, the same scent from the morning she had first called me in tears. She glanced at my clothes, my laptop bag, the quiet confidence I didn't bother hiding anymore. "You look successful," she murmured. "I worked for it." She sighed, eyes glistening. "Emma, I'm sorry. You have every right to hate me." I was desperate. I thought selling the house would fix everything. But it didn't. The money's gone. The people I trusted disappeared. I lost everything. Her voice cracked, and for the first time in months, I saw a piece of my old sister behind those tears. "Lily," I said softly, "you didn't lose everything. You threw it away. There's a difference." She looked down. "I know. I just didn't think you'd ever forgive me." I let the silence breathe between us before answering. "Forgiveness isn't something you ask for once, Lily. It's something you earn, slowly, by being honest, by changing. You haven't done that yet." Her chin trembled. "I don't know how." I exhaled, feeling the ache of old love and new boundaries mixing inside me. "Start by owning your mistakes. Not explaining them. Owning them." She nodded, wiping her cheeks. I want to make things right." I looked out at the street, the lights reflecting in the puddles. "I don't need your apology to move on anymore," I said quietly. "But I hope you learn to give one for yourself." When I stood to leave, she reached for my arm. "Emma, are we still sisters?" I smiled sadly. "We always will be. But for now, we're strangers learning how to be better people." Then I walked away. As I turned the corner, I didn't feel anger or victory, just peace. The kind that comes when the past stops owning you. That night, I wrote the final paragraph of a blog post I had been drafting for weeks. Family can break your heart in ways no one else can. But healing means realizing that love and boundaries can coexist. I lost a house, but I found a home inside myself. When I hit publish, messages began to pour in, women from everywhere sharing their stories of betrayal, recovery, and hope. For the first time, my pain had purpose. And my story wasn't about losing a sister anymore. It was about finding myself. Within a few weeks, that blog post started spreading farther than I ever imagined. At first, it was shared among a few local women's groups in Los Angeles. Then, one morning, my inbox overflowed, hundreds of messages from strangers who saw themselves in my story. A journalist from a lifestyle magazine reached out. "Your article on family betrayal is resonating everywhere. Would you mind an interview?" I almost said no. Part of me still felt fragile. But another part, the one that had walked through betrayal and rebuilt, knew that silence was the same as surrender. When the article went live, it wasn't about Lily or money. It was about strength, about how losing everything forced me to meet myself again. My name, Emma Hayes, began to float around design circles and empowerment networks. Invitations poured in: panels, podcasts, collaborations. And slowly, my business grew beyond anything I'd planned. Every time I signed a new client, every time I looked around my new office, small but entirely mine, I thought of that day I handed Lily a check and said, "That's what sisters are for." Back then, I believed saving her was love. Now I understood. Saving myself was, too. One evening, as I prepared slides for a conference, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I read your article. I'm proud of you." I knew instantly it was her.
"Lily."
I stared at the screen for a long time. The old ache flickered, but it didn't control me anymore. I typed back simply, Thank you. I hope you're doing better. She replied a minute later. I'm trying. I got a job at a shelter. It's not glamorous, but it's something. Maybe someday, you'll forgive me. My eyes softened. I already did, I wrote. But forgiveness doesn't mean returning to the past. She didn't reply after that. And somehow, that silence felt peaceful. Months rolled by. My work flourished, my voice found its rhythm, and every scar I carried became a reminder of resilience. People started calling me the woman who turned betrayal into power. But I didn't crave the praise. What mattered most was that I could look at myself in the mirror and no longer see a victim, only a survivor. Sometimes, at night, I drive by the hill overlooking the city lights of Los Angeles. That view used to make me think of what I lost. Now it reminded me of how far I'd climbed. I whispered to the skyline, as if my old self were listening. You didn't lose your home, Emma. You just built it somewhere no one can ever sell again, inside your heart. A year later, the city felt different. The air in Los Angeles had that early summer shimmer, the kind that used to make me nostalgic for everything I'd lost. Now it simply made me grateful to still be here. My company had grown enough to hire a small team, 3 women who, like me, were starting over. Every morning we'd gather in the studio, laughter echoing off the bright walls, our coffee cups lined up like tiny trophies of survival. One afternoon a message popped up in my inbox. Community Women's Foundation, keynote invitation, turning betrayal into bravery. I stared at the title for a long moment. That used to be just a phrase to me. Now it was my life. When I stepped onto that stage weeks later, a hush swept the room. Hundreds of faces, some tear-streaked, some smiling, waited for me to speak. I took a deep breath and began. A year ago, I sold my home to save someone I loved. She sold it again behind my back. I thought that was the end of me, but it was the beginning. I told them about heartbreak, about sleeping on the floor of my empty apartment, about rebuilding one invoice at a time. And I told them the truth I'd bled to learn. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the moment you stop letting someone else write your story. When I finished, the audience rose. Not for me, but for every woman who'd ever been betrayed and still found the courage to stand. Afterward, as I left the auditorium, the sun was setting, pink, gold, endless. My phone buzzed with a short message from Lily. I saw your speech online. I'm proud of you. I'm finally proud of me, too. For the first time in a long while, I smiled at her name instead of flinching. I typed back. That's all I ever wanted, Lily. Then I put my phone away and walked into the evening. No anger. No regrets. Just quiet freedom. Sometimes the people we die for will bury us instead. But every ending, every heartbreak, every betrayal is only a doorway. And when you finally walk through it, you realize you never needed saving. You only needed to remember your worth. Because losing a house doesn't mean losing your home, especially when you learn to build it inside your own heart.
If this story gave you chills, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen play out?